Hi, and welcome back to Beans and Bezels. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Lemus Endurance GMT watch. I mentioned Lemus in my review of the Archimede Outdoor 39 as another brand under the Ickler umbrella. Lemus appears to be the oldest and has been around for nearly 90 years. There doesn't seem to be a hierarchical difference between Archimede and Lemus, but Lemus have dressier watches such as in the Pharaoh and Kiros product lines. The Endurance line is what got me excited though, with the aggressive case designs on their diver style watches. I asked to review the blue dial, blue bezel variant because blue watches make me happy. Let's take a look at the case. In terms of design, this case looks absolutely monstrous, and I mean this in the best way possible. Every potentially smooth edge has been discarded to make room for bold angled surfaces and bold edges. There is a very raw and industrial aesthetic to the case, from the overall brushed stainless steel finish to the sharp angular lugs and even sharp angular crown guards. Let me give you a closer look at the crown guards. Even the bezel grip continues this utilitarian design identity, with rectilinear ridges that are also brushed in the same style as the case. In terms of overall dimensions, the case diameter is 41.5 millimeters and has a lug-to-lug width of 50 millimeters, with an overall thickness of just 12.5 millimeters. The lug width is 20 millimeters but visually looks larger because of the case design. Strap junkies can rejoice the use of drilled through lugs and even the use of screwed link pins. The crown and crown guard design is as impressive as the Archimede. It is extremely comfortable to operate with perfectly spaced crown ridges and an overall 6.75 millimeter diameter. The tolerances on the crown guard and the crown construction are excellent, and the crown screws down perfectly into the case with no gaps. I think Ickler's crown guard and crown designs are some of the best in the business right now. Both the crown and case back screw down into the case, and the watch is rated for up to 300 meters of water resistance. This is impressive considering the watch is only 12.5 millimeters tall. The case back is a simple solid case back signed with the brand's logo and the case specifications. The bezel to me is particularly interesting because it extends outward over the case at the 12 and 6 o'clock positions, as you can see here. The rest of the bezel fits tightly within the silhouette of the watch case, and the 120 click bezel is comfortable to operate and quite loud. So if you're a click junkie, this will make you very happy. I did notice some minor vertical movement in the bezel but no backplay, although there is some slack until it locks into its groove. Let me give you a closer look at the bezel. So in terms of overall construction, the Endurance GMT, like the Outdoor 39, lives up to all the hype around Ickler case manufacturing. The tolerances are impressive, and even the bracelet and case joint is perfectly snug, with absolutely no wiggle room. So I'd say that this is another terrific case from Ickler, and this is almost reason enough to get one. But the bracelet is quite good as well. Because if you've read my review of the Archimede Outdoor, you might remember that my biggest issue with that watch was the cheaply made clasp and the just adequate bracelet. The bracelet on this watch proves that Ickler can make an awesome metal bracelet. The brushed links have a 5-piece link design and are manufactured incredibly well, and also articulate well. The bracelet has been very comfortable and I have no complaints whatsoever. The clasp is much better than on the Archimede and has milled inner components, but a pressed outdoor clasp with 4 quick adjustment slots spanning 6 millimeters. I think they could have still got away with adding 1 or 2 more, but I was still able to dial a perfect fit for my wrist. The clasp also has a well-made milled diver's extension. So overall, this bracelet and clasp is significantly better than the Archimede and quite a success, with the links being the star of the show. I would still like to see them attempt a milled clasp with on-the-go quick adjust. I think at the $1,500 price range, this is becoming an expected feature these days, with many micro brands offering them in their dive watches. That said, I think this bracelet will meet most requirements in terms of form and function, and I've really enjoyed wearing it. Let's move on to the dial. This watch has been tricky to photograph because in person the dial and bezel are different shades of blue, with the bezel being closer to turquoise and the dial being a dark purplish shade of blue. Under bright lights or in low light settings, the two appear to be the same color, but they really aren't. I'm glad they didn't use the same color for both, as I think that might have been too overpowering. The dial has white hour indices with a combination of minute markers and numerals at the edge of the dial. I think the blue and white contrast makes for excellent legibility. There is an inner 24-hour Gmt ring with hour markers and indices painted in red. Excellent choice of colors in my opinion. Let me give you a closer look at the Gmt ring. The handset is very well finished and legible, with generous amounts of lume on the minute and hour hands. The seconds hand also has a lumed rectangular element, which is always a win in my book. There is a red arrow-shaped GMT hand that navigates the inner 24-hour GMT ring. The GMT hand is painted red and filled with lume. The hands are well made and almost perfectly finished. I couldn't find any surface irregularities or scratches. I did find a small dust or fabric element on the seconds hand, but unfortunately this is not uncommon even among the most expensive of brands. The hands look like they could be rhodium plated, but I don't think it is since the website doesn't mention it. That brings up another unrelated point. The Ickler websites aren't very elaborate in their list of specifications, and they often undersell their components by not mentioning the types of materials even when it is high quality stuff. There is a date window at 6 o'clock that blends in well with the outer hour markers and has a white date wheel, which further helps it remain subtle and inconspicuous. I think Ickler has mastered the art of integrating a date wheel onto their dials without making it look too asymmetric or awkward. The numerals on the bezel have slightly rough edges, but I think this has to do with the material used on the inlays. The lume on the GMT hand is green, whereas the rest of the loomed elements are blue. The bezel pip is also loomed. The lume on the indices is a bit weaker than the hands and fades away sooner than the rest, but overall the nighttime legibility is very good. In terms of movements, this watch houses an ETA 2893-2 Elaborate grade movement. This is a tried and tested GMT movement and can be found on many popular watches like the Zinn 857 UTC. I logged this watch's accuracy over a 4-day period and observed an average accuracy of roughly plus 7 seconds per day. This isn't bad, but I'm certain that this movement can be regulated to tighter bounds. But this watch is a demo and review unit, so that's probably why it hasn't been adjusted in a while. The Gmt adjustment is in the same crown position as the date, but is adjusted by moving clockwise. I was a bit worried about the 50mm lug-to-lug width, but the watch wears great on my 6 1/4 inch wrist. This is primarily due to the fact that the links are short and the end links articulate really well. I wouldn't recommend this watch to those with wrists smaller than 6 inches though. The height is a very appealing 12.5mm, which together with the short angle lugs means that it sits low on the wrist and allows for a comfortable wrist experience. I also think that the bracelet has a lot to do with the overall comfort of this watch, and if you're considering this watch, I highly recommend getting the bracelet with it. Let me give you a full wrist roll on my 6 1/4 inch wrist. To wrap things up, I think the Limes Endurance GMT has a lot to offer for a $1,500 watch. The case is fantastic and designed to be rugged and utilitarian. The manufacturing tolerances all across the case are excellent, and the crown and crown guard execution is phenomenal. The bracelet is very good with excellent links and a good clasp. The bezel on its own is very well made and has negligible backplay but some vertical wiggle room. The dial is legible and well designed. The hands are excellent and of very good quality. In terms of design and construction, Ickler brings their roughly 1 century of watchmaking experience and excellence to the table. In terms of the very fine details though, the few stray particles and dust make it fall a step or two short behind their incredible manufacturing skills. Overall, this isn't the cheapest GMT watch in terms of price, and there are plenty of other GMT watches available for as cheap as $500. But what this watch offers is exceptional case construction, a well-designed and clearly legible dial, a very good bracelet, a good movement, and an overall comfortable wrist experience. Lastly, the watch ships in what appears to be Ickler's standard branded cardboard box with a pillow and some padding. I'm not a fan of elaborate watch boxes that take up half your cupboard to store, but at $1,500 it's nice to be pampered a bit with a slightly more upmarket box. Ickler did send me a bag of Haribo with this watch, so I'll easily forgive their simplistic packaging. Thanks for watching, and check out the full review in the link below. And don't forget to let me know what you think of this watch in the comment section. Thanks.